Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Premier, members of the Liberal Caucus, federal and provincial, welcome to Clarenville, welcome to Bonavista, Burin, Trinity. Welcome to rural Newfoundland and Labrador, Mr. Prime Minister.
Great to be back.
And Mayor Pickett is here somewhere as well, and he's right here in the back of the room visiting with us for today's event. I want to just say a couple of words about the program. First of all, to listen to the families talk about the $10 a day care program and what it's done for them, it's tremendous. If you want to get more information about what that program means for families and kids, talk to these people. On the other hand, I want to also let the Prime Minister have an opportunity to talk about why we've done this program and what it means for families in Bonavista, Burin, Trinity, and across the country. So, without further ado, please welcome our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau.
Thank you, Churence. Je suis très heureux d'être ici à Terre-Neuve en compagnie des membres de notre équipe, dont Seamus, Gudie et Joanne. Premier Furey, thanks for having us here in your great province and for always being such a great friend and partner. Our close work is bringing together real change for people's lives across Newfoundland and Labrador. Since the start of this year, I've hosted about half a dozen town halls in order to hear directly from Canadians about what's on their minds and what their priorities are. We're living in a pretty uncertain time right now, and there are lots of different concerns. Top of mind for Canadians is paying their bills, cost of living. We hear your worries, and that's why we've been delivering targeted support to give people help so they can pay for groceries and expenses. Last fall, we sent checks and direct deposits to millions of people, which was a doubling of the GST credit for 6 months. Eligible couples with 2 kids got up to an extra $467 last year. Seniors got an extra $225 on average. We're fighting climate change with a price on pollution that puts money back in your pockets. Here in Clarenville, a family of 4 will get almost $1,500 a year through their climate action incentive payments starting in July. Unfortunately, there are conservative politicians who want to take these checks away from people who don't want to make it affordable to fight climate change. On a aussi bonifié l'allocation canadienne pour les travailleurs afin que les travailleurs à faible revenu puissent recevoir $1 200 de plus cette année. Et on verse $500 de plus aux personnes à faible revenu qui ont de la difficulté à payer leur loyer. On a aussi augmenté les paiements de l'allocation canadienne pour enfants, du régime de pension du Canada et de la sécurité de la vieillesse en fonction de l'inflation. One of the most important things we can do is put in place programs that not only make life more affordable, but that set people up to build the best possible future for themselves and their families. That's why 2 years ago, we laid out an ambitious plan to provide $10 a day childcare from coast to coast to coast by 2026. And today, here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we've reached that target well ahead of schedule. Families across the province are now paying $10 a day. Not only is this saving families here an average of $6,300 per child in regulated care, but it's also making our economies stronger. Now, families in all provinces and territories are benefiting from savings and from investments in high-quality early learning for kids. When parents can afford childcare, they can build their careers and build the futures they want for themselves and for their families. This is good for families, especially for mothers. It's good for businesses looking for workers, and it's good for kids. On poursuit notre travail pour s'assurer que tous les Canadiens aient ce qu'il faut pour réussir. C'est vrai pour les services de garde abordables qui sont essentiels pour faire croître notre économie, et c'est vrai pour notre système de santé universel. That's why we made a major investment in strengthening healthcare across the country and are working to reach bilateral agreements with each province and territory that will ensure Canadians have access to a family doctor or nurse practitioner, that'll reduce wait lists and support healthcare workers, that'll make mental health and substance use care more accessible, and that will modernize our healthcare system so that Canadians and care providers have secure and reliable access to their health information. Newfoundland and Labrador was one of the very first provinces to come on board, and I know ministers and officials are hard at work on the bilateral agreement so that we can start making the improvements to healthcare that people expect and deserve. À travers tout ce qu'on fait, on s'assure de continuer à bâtir une économie centrée sur le bien-être de tous les Canadiens. Some politicians, unfortunately, still believe in the failed trickle-down ideas of the past. They're still thinking that the way forward is to invest in only the wealthiest few and not in people, where you don't invest in childcare, where you don't care if there's more pollution, and while doing less to fight pollution, you take money away from families. That's not how you build a strong economy with a growing middle class. You do it by making sure that parents can afford childcare, that people have access to high-quality, publicly funded health care, that businesses can hire healthy, well-supported workers. You do it by making sure that the people who power our economy are set up for success. By doing all this, we're actually laying the bedrock on which we build an economy that is strong and that works for all Canadians. And we're grateful always to have a steadfast partner in the government of Newfoundland and Labrador. This is a great announcement today that is a testament to what we can do by working together to make real, tangible improvements in people's lives. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Now, very happy to turn it over to our friend, Premier Furey. Andrew.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister, and of course, welcome to Newfoundland and Labrador. You're always welcome here, but it's especially nice to see you here in the town of Clarenville. Thank you for visiting our beautiful province to talk about such an important topic to many families here in Newfoundland and Labrador. As a parent of 3 children, my wife, Allison, and I have heard concerns about the accessibility to affordable childcare in Newfoundland and Labrador for many years. It was a critical issue for me when I entered politics just over 3 years ago. And too many parents, disproportionately women, and caregivers were having to make hard, tough financial choices because of the burden of daily care. My friends, I don't believe in the impossible climbs or the path that is too long or too hard to take. I insist that my team always thinks about solutions. Solutions, plural, because there are always more than one answer to a complex question. There's always another step to take. Through the pandemic and the economic burdens it further exacerbated, the issue of childcare has always been top of mind for our government. And it's something I've worked on passionately to make it easier for families, parents, and caregivers across our province. I am proud that our government delivered $25 a day childcare to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians within months of me becoming Premier. Back then, the average cost was more like $40 a day. The next step came working with the Prime Minister and his team in the federal government and realizing that $15 a day was possible, and we delivered. But we didn't stop there. This year, through that same incredible partnership with the federal government, $10 a day is a reality in our province. We are one of the first places in the country to reach that milestone. And 95% of childcare operators across Newfoundland and Labrador are on our operating grant program offering $10 a day. Getting here required many hands on the push, many heads thinking it through. Of course, more affordable childcare creates another challenge that requires immediate action. More spaces are needed. There is more demand. More early childhood educators are required. In a way, that's a good thing to solve. But I know that it offers little comfort to parents wanting to get back to work after welcoming a little new one to their families. So I hope that this does. We are putting all our energy into creating solutions here too. And we're working closely with early childhood educators, for pre-kindergarten, for family home-based providers, and for not-for-profit groups. We have increased funding, in some areas even doubling the funding. We need even more childhood educators and need to further support the ones we have with more bursaries and more incentives. We've increased the wages to roughly $25 an hour effective April 1st, with a one-time payment to cover the start of this year before it was implemented. Early childhood educator programs are full, and our government is providing funding to expand the number of seats they can offer. Already on track to add over 700 new seats in the next year alone. With $10 a day childcare, families in Newfoundland and Labrador can save between $5,000 to $9,000 per year on childcare, because every dollar saved is an investment in a child's future in this province, an investment in the next generation of change makers. We must keep supporting families every way we can. The bright future we are all working towards in Newfoundland and Labrador will be inherited by the children we reach and the families we continue to lift and always, always support. That's not a talking point in my government, nor is it a political maneuver. This is what your government works towards every single day. Thank you. I now invite Minister Haggie to come up for a few remarks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Clarenville. Premier Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau, Premier Furey, Minister Hutchings and invited guests. And it's great to be here to help celebrate a milestone in early learning, a milestone we achieved on January the 1st in this province. When I started in the education portfolio last year, there was a lot of discussion about how to modernise the education system. One of the things that was really obvious early on was that the most important step in improving outcomes of education was to provide quality early learning and childcare opportunities. This provides children with a solid base they'll need to start their schooling and their learning, hopefully lifelong learning. And we can't underestimate the importance of this. There's evidence to support it. We're proud as a province to have got to $10 a day childcare as early as we have, well ahead of schedule. Step one's done, but there are others. While we're working and have succeeded in improving the affordability of childcare, our challenge now, and we are working towards that, is of increasing capacity. One of the keys was increasing the number of early childhood educators. And we have numerous steps in that direction. The first and most significant of which is a wage grid, which will be announced to be implemented April 1st, and there will be retroactive payment to January the 1st, which was our undertaking to the ECEs initially. That wage grid will start with $25 an hour for a level 2 ECE. It will show them as a profession that we value them, that they are important, and that level of professionalism requires respect and appreciation. We're working on recruitment initiatives separate from the law of a good wage. We provided funding to the College of the North Atlantic, Kean College and Academy Canada to expand the number of seats to 700 this year. We've enhanced grants and bursaries to education, early childhood education students and graduates. We are increasing international recruitment efforts in conjunction with our partners in immigration, population growth and skills. And we're targeting efforts to bring back trained ECEs into the workforce again. And the wage grid and that enhancement of salary and professionalism will be part of it. To demonstrate all this, we're working with the Early Childhood Educators HR Association on a recruitment campaign, and I'll be announcing more about that in the coming weeks. We're also working with licensees. We've expanded their funding for childcare capacity from 5,000 to 7,000 per created space. We have expanded funding under the Family Childcare Capacity Grant by double to 15,000. We've expanded funding to family and childcare connections to increase their capacity across all regions of the province, not just Metro. And we've introduced pre-kindergarten in schools, which opens up spaces for regulated childcare for younger ages. We'll soon be reviewing the operating grant programme to ensure our capacity is maximised. We're launching consultations in the next few weeks to look at developing a new early learning action plan. This is not the end of it. This is just the beginning. Building capacity takes time. We've made great strides, but the work to provide affordable, accessible, quality childcare here in this province continues. I'm very pleased with our achievements to date, and I look forward to coming back again and standing with my colleagues and my Premier in the future to speak about next steps and even greater opportunities. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's a great day for childcare. Thank you. My last duty, which I nearly forgot, was to introduce Minister Hutchings. Gudie, the platform is yours.
Thanks, Joe. Go ahead. Friends, good morning again. Welcome to Clarenville. Wonderful to have you here, Prime Minister. My federal and provincial colleagues, Mayor, thanks for having us in your town. As the fifth politician to speak, I'm going to keep it really close and
No politician ever.
no politician ever. Yeah, well, I'll do my best. You know what? I'm really proud to be part of a government that understands its trying times for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. But more importantly, I'm proud of a government that comes up with solutions and plans. I'm proud to be part of a government that understands climate change is real. The last time I saw many of you were when we were in Port aux Basques. And I'm proud of a government that we have a plan to address climate change. I'm proud of a government that sees a future for Canada in critical minerals. We have a plan for that, and it's working. I'm proud of a government that understands, yeah, it's challenging times, but we do have a plan, and there are brighter times coming. But more importantly, friends, I'm proud to work for a gentleman that understands this country from coast to coast to coast. He knows every nook and cranny, has a passion for it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he really has a little special passion for Newfoundland and Labrador, and a little bit of FYI for you. Who in this room knows all 10 verses to, you know, Ryan's and Pittman's Rants and the Roars? This man right here does. So, friends, thanks so much. It's a great day not only for childcare, it's a great day for the future of Newfoundland and Labrador. Thanks so much for coming. Have a great day.
We will now start the question and answer period. Nous allons maintenant commencer la période des questions. One question, one follow-up. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Brian Callahan, VOCM News. I'm tempted to ask you, Prime Minister, to sing a few verses for us, but
Here we go.
thank you, first of all, for joining our morning show this morning for the interview. Shortly after your phone call, we received a call from a mother who has been on 30 wait lists for 2 years since her child was born. And she spoke directly to the fact that they're not considering having another child now because of what they've gone through. So we have families considering not to have more children because of the space issue. So I can appreciate the Premier and Dr. Haggie addressed this issue, but is there not a little bit of the cart before the horse with this program?
No, I think we have been we took too long as a country to bring in affordable, high-quality childcare across this country. Quebec did it about 25 years ago. And we saw directly what a huge impact it made. So when we stepped up 2 years ago to work with the provinces, some of which were already doing significant work improving childcare, it wasn't a moment too soon. And the impact that it's having, I sat down with parents to hear from them this morning on what affordable childcare is making as a difference when the cost of everything else seems to be going up, whether it's groceries or rent or mortgage. Saving thousands of dollars a year on childcare is unbelievably important. But obviously, it's not just about making sure childcare is affordable. It's making sure that there are accessible spaces. It's making sure, as was pointed out, that there are early childhood educators who are properly trained, properly rewarded, and paid to deliver high-quality childcare. And this is the work we're doing to build a system across this country that is going to be there so parents don't have to choose between career and family. So it's affordable, so kids get the best possible start in life, and so that we can continue to see more women join the workforce. And yes, there is more work to do. We've been talking about 6,000 more spaces to come, and lots more work to make sure we are building an infrastructure across the country where Canadians are going to be able to find those childcare spaces that are affordable and high quality. We're starting. But it's making a huge difference for many, many families, and as we continue to build up the infrastructure, we'll continue to do more. But I'm happy to turn it over to Andrew to talk about specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you heard the minister address some of the issues, but I firmly believe that you can tackle accessibility and affordability at the same time. In fact, to sequence them is probably not the right equilibrium. You need to tackle them both together. And so while I can understand that that causes some distress and anxiety for individuals, and I'm not would never, ever dismiss that as a parent myself. I think it's important that we tackle them both together. So we're tackling the affordability piece, and we did that ahead of schedule, but now we need to scale that. And that is going to take some time, but we are putting the right measures in place to ensure that we not only check the box on the affordability piece, we check it on the accessibility piece. And whether that's in introducing pre-K, so increasing capacity within the existing preschool, the existing early childhood institutions, or increasing the number of people who are training, 700. By the way, that's a 5-fold increase in 3 years. So those people will eventually be in the workforce. We're incentivizing home institutions to be regulated, increasing the grant by doubling the grant, and increasing existing institutions to increase capacity by increasing their grants available to them. In addition to ensuring that we're incentivizing people to get into this profession by ensuring that there's appropriate bursaries and bonuses available to them. So all of those things take time, but we need to have the ability, we need to have the foresight, we need to recognize that you have to do both accessibility and affordability at the same time.
And just as a follow-up to that, so one of the issues, of course, is the regulated versus unregulated. Is that causing the issue here? Is that part of the problem, and is there time to try
No,
to...
we
need all the space we can get.
Sure. I mean, we've had, when we first announced this back in September of 2020, $25 a day, we had healthy discussions between regulated and unregulated. Obviously, the more spaces, the better. But there's been healthy consultation between both groups, and we are working with both groups, both stakeholders, to ensure we're moving together to increase capacity overall. So I think one of the things that increasing solving the affordability question to a certain extent has increased the demand for these spaces. So there's been a disruption in the marketplace, if you will, in the supply-demand equilibrium, and we're trying to solve that by increasing the human resources within that space. Obviously, we're slightly more focused on the regulated piece and the not-for-profit piece, and that's working with the federal government has enabled us the fiscal flexibility to achieve our goals 3 years ahead of target.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, Ben Clary, NTV News. Prime Minister, it wasn't long ago Premiers Furey and Legault met to discuss the Churchill Falls contract and other potential energy projects in Labrador. What do you hope to see from these discussions?
So, Canada's committed to full electrification of our electricity grid. That's full electrification of our energy grid by 2035. Fully clean electric grid. That's going to require leadership from across the country, and anytime we see provinces working together, whether it's on power generation or interties, things like the Atlantic Loop and others, these are steps in the right direction. We know we are able to draw in extraordinary investments from around the world right now as people are looking to Canada as a source for clean energy, as a source for cleaner manufacturing, whether it was an announcement on a Michelin plant in Bridgewater yesterday, or the story about Volkswagen coming to build its first battery plant outside of, first battery plant in North America here in Canada, or many, many other investments. We know we are going to need more clean electricity to respond to the drive and the interest that the world has in seeing Canadian solutions. I know provinces are very, very excited about being ambitious in terms of power generation, and we will continue to be there to work with them.
We've heard a fair bit of debate on the federal carbon tax in the Provincial House of Assembly this week. What would your message to residents be who maybe are worried that it'll increase their cost of home heating fuels?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation going on this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to first remind people that we need to fight climate change. As Gudie pointed out, we were in Port aux Basques just a few months ago, seeing the devastation that happens as we get more and more extreme weather events. We know that climate change is real. We know we have to do what we can to reduce emissions and fight it. But we also know we have to do that in a way that continues to support families. That's why we brought in a price on pollution that is one of the world-leading prices on pollution, with a model that is unique to Canada, that actually puts more money back in the pockets of the average Canadian families than the price on pollution actually costs them in a given year. So not only are we sending clear price signals to businesses and to innovators to keep moving forward on reducing emissions and investing in clean technology, but we're putting more money in the pockets of families right across Canada because of this price on pollution. This is a measure that both helps with affordability and fights climate change. So when Conservative politicians say they would scrap the price on pollution, what they're actually saying is we will do less to fight against climate change, and we will be taking money away from families who are counting on these climate action incentives to continue to find things affordable.
Next question.
Minister Daryl Roberts, CBC News. Thank you. You've described the relationship between your government and the provincial government as steadfast here today, but Premier Furey has said he was disappointed in the decision to implement the federal carbon tax and in the amount of funding from the federal health agreement. Would you say that this represents a rift between your two governments? And I'd be interested in hearing from both of you on this.
Oh, listen, Premier Furey does an outstanding job at his job, which is standing up for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador and trying to make sure that he is looking out for them every step of the way. My role is to make sure I'm standing up for all Canadians at the same time. And as we're seeing here today, we spend an awful lot of time agreeing, whether it's on clean electricity generation, whether it's on investments for the future, whether it's on childcare and affordability issues, whether it's on creating good jobs and opportunities for people across Newfoundland and Labrador. There's a lot we're doing together. But we're going to continue to make sure we are talking and working things through and delivering for people right across the province, as we do right across the country. There are always going to be things and perspectives that differ in conversations with other politicians, but our capacity to work together concretely to deliver for people is, I know it's not always making for great headlines for people who are selling newspapers, but Canadians really care about seeing orders of government work together constructively to deliver good news concretely for them. Things like $10 a day childcare. Things like a real plan to fight climate change that puts more money back in people's pockets. Solving challenges for energy of the future, whether it's offshore wind to hydrogen that we're selling to Germany, or other opportunities for good jobs right across the province, whether it's moving forward on critical minerals, because that's an essential part of the battery supply chains that Canada's building. There's so much for us to do together that is really, really exciting, and particularly through and after the pandemic, Canadians really appreciate it when orders of government come together and work together to deliver. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, we have a great working relationship. It's not just it's not just friendship. It's been delivered in results, whether that's $5.2 billion to solve the Muskrat Falls fiasco, or examples that the Prime Minister used today, affordable childcare or health care. And it was a bit of a selective quote on disappointed. What I did say was, of course, we always would like more money. That's my role as a Premier, is to always argue for more money. But I think that this Prime Minister delivered a real win with respect to the small jurisdictions and the CHT. As you know, the CHT used to be calculated per capita. In a province like Newfoundland and Labrador, and the geographic complexities and the complexities of the demographics and the complex care, frankly, that is associated with that, the per capita just doesn't work. It can't work. We'll always be caught behind because as others, just pure math, as others grow, we don't. So the recognition by this Prime Minister and this government that there has to be flexibility for smaller provinces was something that is key, is something that we fought for, it's something that the Prime Minister recognized, and it's yet another example of how we work strongly together. And these bilateral agreements will allow us to unlock a non-per capita funding model that will be essential to develop a sustainable healthcare system for Newfoundland and Labrador into the future. So to suggest that there's a rift, I think, is a large overestimate.
I have a question about Haiti. When you were in Mexico City in January, you said we're all very aware that things could get worse in Haiti, and you said that Canada was preparing various scenarios if things got worse. And the situation has deteriorated over the past few weeks, so I'm wondering what kind of scenarios were you talking about in January, and are you preparing to implement any?
Well, over the past 3 decades, Canada has been there for our friends in Haiti in many, many different ways. We have delivered military missions, we've built hospitals, we've trained police officers, delivered prison guards, done a huge amount of intervention, and yet the problems persist. What is clear is that there needs to be a fresh approach to Haiti that actually puts the Haitian people themselves in the driver's seat on building strong opportunities and strong democracy for them. Part of that we've responded to by bringing in sanctions on the elite families in Haiti who are so responsible not just for funding gangs but for destabilizing the political world and their economy in Haiti at the terrible cost for the Haitian people. So bringing in direct sanctions on the oligarchs is a big part of it. The other thing we're very much focused on now is training up the Haitian National Police and giving them the support so that they can themselves restore the security situation. Outside intervention, as we've done in the past, hasn't worked to create long-term stability for Haiti. So we are now working closely with partners on the ground to enable the Haitian National Police and other institutions to stabilize the country in this very difficult time. We will continue to stay focused on working hand in hand with Haitians to get their country back on track.
Next question.
Mooney, Radio-Canada. Première question dans les deux langues, si possible. Comme les libéraux refusent que Katie Telford témoigne sur la comité de la procédure sur l'ingérence étrangère, est-ce que vous seriez prêt à témoigner vous-même?
Je pense que c'est tout à fait compréhensible à quel point les Canadiens sont inquiets quand vient la question d'ingérence étrangère. L'ingérence de la Chine dans nos institutions politiques, dans nos élections, tout comme dans nos affaires, dans nos centres de recherche, est extrêmement préoccupante. Et les Canadiens veulent savoir qu'en tant que gouvernement, que nos instances de sécurité, de renseignement sont en train de tout faire pour protéger les Canadiens, protéger nos institutions et s'assurer que tout soit fait de la bonne façon. Malheureusement, il y en a qui croient que plus de partisanerie va rassurer les Canadiens ou renforcer notre démocratie. Nous ne sommes pas d'accord. C'est pour ça que nous avons mis de l'avant, nous allons mettre de l'avant un expert indépendant qui sera chargé de regarder l'entièreté de la situation, d'assurer que les différents comités qu'on a créés, NCIRA et NSI Corp, puissent faire leur travail pour vraiment creuser dans ces enjeux avec un niveau approprié de code de sécurité pour permettre de voir tous les documents. Ce que les Canadiens veulent, c'est des vraies réponses, pas des jeux politiques, et c'est exactement ce qu'on est en train de livrer. I think Canadians are right to be extremely concerned about the interference by China in our institutions, in our democracy, and in our elections. As we've said many times, we put in place mechanisms and bodies that absolutely can reassure Canadians that there was no impact from Chinese interference onto the outcome of our elections. That's something that Canadians have confidence in. But there are politicians out there who think that the best way to solve this very serious problem and this concern that Canadians have is by amping up the level of partisanship and political attacks. That's not the way to respond to this very, very serious issue. That's why we're going to be putting forward an independent expert tasked with surveying the entire landscape around interference and our national security bodies and institutions, making sure that everything was done right, that everything is done to keep Canadians and our elections safe. This is an approach that is serious, responsible, grounded in facts and independent decision-making, not playing partisan political games.
Question suivie.
Prochain, juste en français. Donc, le fédéral a offert beaucoup d'aide aux victimes et sinistrés de Fiona, mais qu'est-ce que Ottawa peut faire pour éviter que de tels dommages matériels se présentent à l'avenir?
On reconnaît à quel point des événements extrêmes météorologiques vont continuer d'être de plus en plus graves et sérieuses à travers le pays dans les années à venir à cause des changements climatiques. C'est pour ça qu'on a mis de l'avant une stratégie nationale sur l'adaptation qui va viser à bâtir des infrastructures, à revoir les cartes et les vulnérabilités aux inondations, aux sécheresses. On est en train d'avoir une approche ancrée dans les données, dans les prévisions, pour s'assurer que les communautés à travers le pays soient plus résilients en face d'événements extrêmes. C'est des partenariats avec les provinces, avec les municipalités, mais c'est un travail de longue haleine qui va devoir continuer pendant des années, mais on a lancé juste l'année passée notre stratégie nationale sur l'adaptation qui va commencer à faire une grande différence pour prévenir les impacts, les pires impacts dans les communautés.
Next question.
Hi there, I'm Sarah Smelly. I'm with the Canadian Press. I wanted to ask you about Bill S-237 to create a foreign influence registry. You've said that you're going to launch your own consultations to create your own version. What about the current bill before the Senate do you not like?
We're going to continue to work as parliamentarians to study various proposals. I think there are lessons learned around what Australia and other countries have done around a foreign influence registry. I think it's an important tool. It's not a silver bullet that's going to save everything, but I think it's part of the toolbox that we need to look at. And that's why the Public Safety Minister is moving forward as we committed to delivering on a national foreign influence registry.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask you about the 6-month GST rebate. The leader of the NDP is hoping that it will be in the budget. Will it be there?
As you well know, the federal budget will come down later this month, and we are working very, very hard to move forward in a way that's going to be responsive to the challenges that Canadians are facing. We recognize huge pressures around affordability, and that's why we have stepped up, whether it's on $10 a day childcare, whether it was on a 6-month GST rebate in the fall, whether it was moving forward on things like dental care that the Conservatives voted against that is helping hundreds of thousands of kids go to the dentist for the first time because their families couldn't afford it until now. Those are big issues. Moving forward with a $500 top-up to the National Housing Benefit. These are things the Conservatives were opposed to. Even though they talk a good game about affordability, they don't actually deliver. So in our budget, we're going to be putting forward measures that will directly help Canadians. Measures around affordability, measures around continuing to deliver on improvements in healthcare that Canadians are so urgently needing, and measures that will continue to create great jobs for Canadians right across the country. I very much look forward to presenting that budget, but everyone's going to have to wait a few more weeks.
Next question.
Barb Dean Simmons from Saltwater Network, The Telegram. My colleague from Radio Canada asked the question in French, but I'll ask it in English. Fiona, a lot of devastation, a lot of rebuilding, and folks around Atlantic Canada say that to build back better, they're going to need a whole lot more money than you had budgeted for after the storm. Where are we going with that, and can we expect to see some more money in this coming budget?
We have to recognize that the increasing cost of extreme weather events, whether it be wildfires across the prairies, flooding, as we saw a few years ago in BC, or hurricanes and extreme storms here on the Atlantic coast, we need to do a better job building resilient infrastructure, and communities are going to be able to handle the kinds of impacts that are inevitable because climate change is real. So on the first hand, Canadians deserve a government that continues to believe that climate change is real and will continue to fight against it and reduce emissions while putting more money back in Canadians' pockets. And that's what we're doing with the price on pollution. Furthermore, we know it costs billions to clean up after the fact on extreme weather events, but if we invest wisely ahead of time in stronger infrastructure, we can avoid many of the devastation and losses that people have felt during Fiona and other situations. That's why we move forward with a national adaptation strategy that is focused on how we're going to work with provinces and municipalities to create communities that are more resilient in the face of greater climate uncertainty. It's an ongoing process, and we'll continue to work very, very closely with our partners. But we know that it is much better to prevent the worst of the impacts from extreme weather events than to always be spending money trying to clean up afterwards and rebuild broken homes and broken lives.
Last follow-up.
Secondly, we have a lot of natural gas deposits off our south coast, and back in September, you talked about possibly looking at easing the regulations that would allow the development of natural gas projects in Canada, and particularly the LNG project off our coast. Where are you with that, and can we expect to see regulatory change?
Canada is well positioned to be the purveyor of energy to the world in a net zero world. We know we have to get to net zero by 2050, but we also are going to need to increase the amount of electricity and energy that we have to grow our economies and create good jobs and opportunities for everyone. Those two things together are not incompatible. We need to continue to step up on decarbonization. We need to continue to step up with solutions for the world, and we will do that. We have very strong regulatory processes. We have very strong commitments that we've made around reducing emissions, at the same time as we see what's happening over in Europe as they are no longer considering Russia as a reliable supplier of energy. Canada can be a reliable supplier of energy, but Europe is not just looking to replace Russian oil and gas, they're looking to replace oil and gas altogether with more renewables and other solutions, and that's something that we're going to continue to be there for. We have tremendous fossil fuel resources that we're working on decarbonizing, and we'll continue to look at how we build renewables into that mix greater and greater ways to build a stronger future for everyone.
This concludes our press conference today. Ceci conclut notre conférence de presse. Thanks for your participation.
Thank you.